What's going on, guys? So in this video we're actually doing something quite a bit different than what I usually do. So behind me I have my 2015 Dodge Challenger SRT Hellcat 6-speed, and this is like my daily driver, so I'm actually building this one this year. And the first thing up on the build list is working with Scoggin Dickey Parts Center on one of their brand new Reaper camshaft kits. So what I'm doing in this video is this will be kind of the teardown video of pulling the body off so that we have all access for pulling the cam out, taking the valve covers off, supercharger off, all that stuff. So this video will be solely just the teardown of it, and then we'll do another series. So this will be like a build series, so y'all can see the teardown of it, the engine teardown, the cam swap, all of the stuff that we're going to be adding onto it or changing on it. And then we'll do another one of reassemble and then the tuning. And we'll also do a dyno video as well. Let's get into it. First things first, we need to disconnect our battery. So what I'm going to do is first unplug the negative terminal sensor because this car has it. It's kind of like a safety switch that they have. So we'll unplug that first and then remove the negative battery terminal from the battery here in the trunk. So you've got this little, let me pan down here. So right there is where the battery is. We're going over there, and it's in the little cubby hole that's here in the trunk. Alright, so right here is that negative switch I was talking about. So that has like a little tab up here. You just want to push on the back of it so you can pull back and unplug it. And then we're going to take a little 10mm and loosen up this little hold down bolt and then remove this negative terminal up off the battery. I'm going to crack that loose and pick this little guy up and off of the terminal. Sorry, I needed two hands to kind of shimmy it off there, but we're going to take that there off and just set it aside. That way we don't have any crazy codes and stuff going on. Go ahead and pull these out. That way I have a lot more visibility. Then quite literally just go like this. Both sides. You just kind of peel them up and out. And that way I have a lot more access points here, 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 so I can see everything. Okay. Get that unplugged. Dang, that's a long one. Jabba. Alright, so hold this out the rest of the way. There we go. Alright, cool. Look at all this room for activity! Wow! We're going to go ahead and take this 13 off. This one can stay because this is going with the vehicle, with the body. And then all of these little clips are going to have to pop out so that we can have them come up and out, because this one goes to the engine harness, which is staying in the frame. There we go. So there's both of them right there, and then that way we can put that one over there, and we can actually go ahead and get this little guy out if we really needed to. Now we have a little bit more area and visibility of all the things right there. A lot of it is just looking at, okay, what is connected to what, and visualizing what is staying on the ground and what is being lifted up with the body. So that's just kind of like the puzzle that you gotta kind of put together, because these lines are going to go up with it because those are all going to be connected. I'm just going to disconnect them from the supercharger in the back there. We gotta work on that cowl too. I'm trying to get a lot of this stuff under here disconnected first before I put it up in the air. That way I'm vertically challenged, and so the higher it is, the harder it is for me to work on certain things. Especially stuff that's way back there, it's easier for me to get it while the vehicle's still on the ground level. That way I can kind of like lay in there without worrying about it on the lift, tipping and stuff like that. Alright, at this point I feel like I'm just starting to just take crap off because I don't really have like any sort of steps necessarily. I'm just gonna try to just start taking stuff off. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be so fun. We're the second plastic clip in and it's already broken. This is gonna be so much fun. There we go. Alright, gotta replace that little guy. Okay, now we can get to all it. I'm gonna do my best to show y'all where this is. It's held up by like those two push clips. So if you pop this down with like a pry tool, then there is a red locking tab on the bottom side right here. Like I said, it's really hard to see, but we're gonna push that locking tab up so that it unlocks. And then this gray part, we have to push. Oh my gosh, it's so hard to do all this at the same time. Okay, good. Can I get this out here to where I can show y'all easier? Alright, so I was able to pull out the connector over here, so we have a lot more area to work with because it was tucked up behind here. These are the two Christmas tree clips that you're going to have to disconnect, like pop them out so you can get to this thing. The red locking tab you're going to slide back, and then on this side you have like a push tab. So you're going to push in as you're pushing up. So like that little wheel. And then that's good. It's going to disconnect it. Now you're going to want to make sure to see all this dirt and stuff and crap in here. So you're going to want to clean that really well when it all goes back in, so you don't have stuff getting inside of your pins and stuff getting up in there. So this one is the one that goes to your engine harness. This one is the one that goes to, I believe, the chassis, because it looks like it goes there to the ECU. But this one is eventually going to get tucked back up underneath here and pushed back into this little cross member on the cowl. But I pulled this all out so y'all can see that a lot easier and how to disconnect it. We have this vacuum line that's back here, and we're basically just going to pull that straight out without breaking it. There it goes. Phew. And unplug it. Boom. Bada bing, bada boom. Enjoy. Already making messes. Oh no, it ate my Sharpie. Alright, so now we're going to take all of our splash guards off underneath. Well, not technically splash guards. These are like your protective engine covers and service covers, technically. We got this little hose right here. This is our little drain hose for our coolant and our radiator. And if you see up here, there's like a little tabby clip looking thing. If you can kind of see it right there. Right there. So we're going to turn that. That's our valve to open that so we can drain out all the coolant. Got a bucket down here, so we're going to drain it all out right there. And while that's draining, then I can disconnect my oil cooler hoses and a whole bunch of other fun, good stuff. And I already loosened up the caps on the cooling system. There it goes. See if we can get it out a little more without pulling that whole plug out. Alright, looks like that's going to be our steady stream right there. We'll let that do its thing while I keep disconnecting everything else. Alright, so when you're doing the exhaust portion, or basically like the back half of the vehicle, there are 4 hangers essentially, and we're going to remove them from the brackets because that's, I feel like, the easiest, and they're 13 mils. So there's one here, here, and in the back by the mufflers. So we're going to take those ones out first, and before we do that, we want to disconnect our sensors so that when we drop those, it doesn't come pulling down on the sensors. So there's 2 clips on the sides here. You're again just going to push in on the tab and then pop up and out. So you got one on this side and then a second on this side. This one's a little bit harder to get to because you got the diff in the way. So I have both of those unplugged, and we're going to get that 13 out. I'm probably going to use an electric ratchet because it's in a precarious spot, so it's harder to get to. So they can only come out from the front since the back ones are welded in. And then after that, you only have the hangers here in the back. So I'll show y'all up close the ones that I'm talking about up here. Alright, I know it's kind of hard to see, but it's this bolt right here that we're going to be taking out. So we're going to take that one out on this side, and then the same one on the other side. It's a 13 millimeter. It might be best, honestly, to have a wrench on it because you're going to have really tough clearance issues right there. And we're gonna do the same thing on the other side on this bolt right here. Once you kind of get it started, it's not too bad to just take out with your fingers. Okay, so they're also kind of sitting on this tab right here. So you don't want to take this up and off yet, because we could just pick this hanger up and take these down. But we're not to that point yet. Once we're ready for that, then we can just kind of pick up on the exhaust and shimmy these out like that. But right now we're going to keep that there to hold this up for us, so that I don't have to put another strap up to hold it for now. And now that when we're ready, we can just go ahead and take that out. Okay, so at this stage too, where we just unplugged our sensors, there's like a little push clip in that bracket, and we're going to want to take that push clip out, because the harness that this plug-in is on is going to go up with the body. So we want to get that push clip out so it's not hanging on that. So here's our hanger up here. The bolt is actually on the other side, but I'm going to actually take this exhaust tip off, first of all because I'm changing them, and second of all, it would be easier to get to without this on from the other side. So I'm going to take that one off. I think these are 15s. Okay. There we go. Alright, cool. So now that we have that off, our hanger bolt is actually right here on this back side. So now we can get to it much easier. Alright. So now we have this back one out, and the only one that's left basically holding it up is that front hanger. Alright, and do the other side. So we got all the coolant drained. That one's empty. You got to pull a hose off the bottom to drain out the supercharger coolant system. So that was down yonder. It's hard to see underneath there. I'll show y'all when we get back down there. But basically, you just pop off any of the hoses. I think it's one of these two that I popped off the hose clamp underneath. And now I'm just kind of getting to the point where I'm pulling this cowl off. I already took this one bolt out that holds the ECM here in this little bracket right here. I was kind of debating about whether or not I want to take this all off, but after looking at some certain issues with clearance, I'm thinking it might just make things a little bit easier, especially because you can't see anything that's going on behind there. And I got to pull those two hose clamps off right here that are going to the supercharger, and also get this fuel rail line off. And so there's a lot of stuff back there that I think if the cowl is removed will make things a lot easier to get to. Also, you want to make sure you have your air conditioning recovered first because you need to pop off 2 AC lines. So you can use your high and low ports here to recover at these ports. I kind of have them labeled over here, so it's a little bit easier for y'all to kind of see what each one is. This was going to the air box. We have this as a power steering line, and then this is the AC line that we're going to be taking off of the compressor, and this line right here we're going to be taking off as well. This one can stay on. That's going to go up with the body, but this one the bigger one we're going to want to take off. I think that was everything on this side. I was kind of looking at this cowl and seeing if there was anything really underneath here. But honestly, I feel like once this is off, I can get to all the clutch stuff back down in there, the steering shaft and all that stuff. So I feel like it might just be easier to pull all this out. But it's just, it's just more stuff to have to take off is all. But we're getting there. We're definitely getting there. I kind of have a game plan for what I'm doing underneath, so that's helpful. Having all of the coolant out helps a lot too. That way I can kind of start disconnecting hoses and such. Like I'm probably about to take this hose off and take that thermostat out. And then that way I can kind of free this up to look down into yonder. Alright, let's take this AC line out. It's a 13 millimeter. Beautiful. And I'll show y'all the one down here. Alright, so I don't know if y'all can see that one. That's the one we're going for. So right where it says AC down there, that's the one we're taking off. 13 millimeter. Cool. Alright, so this one's gonna kind of come up with the car. Oh, my memoir, he just plugged in. Right there. Nice.
There's a lot of fluid in the floor.
That's just cool.
Well, it's looking a little naked. I'll take this floor off and fix up the speaker.
Okay. Alright, so I finished up a couple other little things last night before it got too late and turned in. So I'm going to kind of go over that right now and everything that I took off. So first things first, we did end up pulling the whole cowl off, and the reason being is because it'd be a lot easier to get to, say, these coolant lines and also the one that's going to be here on the back, which I'll show you how to take off. It just frees up a lot more space and room, and then that way I can kind of keep a better eye on everything while the body is going up, and so we make sure we have clearances in the back and just have overall a lot more visibility. I did check the cabin air filter since it's already right here, and actually I think I had replaced it at the last oil change because it looks great, so that's good. And what else? Oh yes, I disconnected the coolant lines that were going to the supercharger, took the cowl off, took off the thermostat housing right here. I'm going to wait to pull that out just because I don't want stuff getting inside there right now. Kind of just keep it clean for now. I did order a new thermostat for 180 degrees, so I'll put that in later. And then pulled the front radiator hose off. That support bar that goes across here, that bolts across, I took that off, so I had to take all the P-clips off. Or not P-clips, the little Christmas tree clips all the way down so I could separate it from the cowl because that was a lot easier to do that. There are 2 screws for the wiper arms that you have to pop off the covers for to get to the 2 15 millimeter nuts. As you can see, these are all just like push clips in, so you just kind of pop them out. And there was, let me see if I can show you on this. This is the cowl here. So this one right here is like a little lever. So at first I thought it was a screw where you have to like take it all the way out, but I could tell by when I turned it, I could hear it unlock, and that's why it has one of these is longer. That way you know which way this hook is facing. But I was able to take the whole cowl off once that was off. Kept the little covers still on it, that one. And for the brake fluid access cover, wiper arms, they do have driver and passenger on them. So if you don't mark them, it's okay. It'll say right here DR and PA. And I just left the blades on the arms so I wouldn't mix and match. There's that bar that was across there with the bolts that go into there. And I kind of have to look on the back a couple more times just to double check, make sure everything's disconnected back there. And then I have a clutch hydraulic line, that's a braided line that sits on top of the transmission. I don't have my light on me, but it's way down there. I need to disconnect that and kind of going from there. So that's the up to speed of where we are as of now. We're getting closer, but it was getting late and I was working on other stuff last night too. So that's where we are. And I'm going to keep on continuing on in the back here. Oh yeah, I still have this fuel line to disconnect from the rail. This one right here. And what else? The steering shafts. So right here, this is the bolt that goes through it. You take this one off, it's a 10 millimeter, pull that bolt out, and then you can push in this steering shaft to disconnect it from the lower half of the shaft. And then what else? I don't think I did anything else right here yet because we will be getting into the transmission lines and stuff. So I did already do the linkage for the shifter. This has a short shifter in it, so it's not a stock shifter. This is the short shifter that was already in it when I bought it. So I took out that linkage bolt. So this linkage bolt that was right here, that was a 10 millimeter. Took that out, dropped that fork down from the full linkage of it, and then there was that bolt right here, right in there. Oops. So this one, that one is actually flat, so it acts as a stud, and there's a nut on the top side that you take the nut out, and then the rest of this will actually just drop down once you take the top linkage off, like the top shifter off. So once you get that off, then this will drop down enough to where when the body goes up, that'll drop down and stay with the transmission. And then I was going back and forth on which side to take the drive shaft off. Being that these bolts are really super long and I did not want to have clearance issues at the top, I ended up actually taking the drive shaft off from the back here instead. It was a lot easier to get to, and the length of the bolts are super long and they're kind of difficult to get to, so especially those top ones, those are really hard to get out because it's really hard to get a ratchet wrench on them, or a ratchet with a socket, because they're T50, so you can't like use a wrench or anything unless you have a really cool one like that, but I had to use a socket for those. I also removed heat shield right here, those 4 on both sides. That way I can just take out the bolts that are on the carrier bearing on both sides here and there, and then have that drive shaft be able to drop down and kind of sit on top of the exhaust when I have things to hold the exhaust. So that's kind of where we are currently. Yeah, I'm just kind of updating y'all as I go because there's a lot to like find as I go along. So I figured that would just be easier rather than trying to do it while going through it, because in terms of editing, it's going to take a lot more time to have it be in like real time. So I found that this is just easier for me anyways to show y'all what I removed rather than real time doing it, because it's hard for me to do that while filming, make sure it's in frame and everything else. So yes. Aside from that, once I have everything kind of done under here, I'll drop the car back down, put the jack stands where they need to go, and then show y'all up above as well before we start to remove the body from the subframe and drivetrain and everything else. So there's your little update, and yeah. So now we're getting into the suspension side of things. So with this, I'm going to try to do my best to actually give you a breakdown of a step-by-step of what all we need to disconnect. So starting with this sway bar link, this one right here, you can disconnect it from the sway bar or the strut. I opted for the upper strut bolt personally. It's just kind of preference, whatever. It's a 19 millimeter that we're using on this side, and then the bolt head is an 8 to hold it down in the front. So we're going to go ahead and zip that out and move on. So I already took the 10 millimeter out for the wheel speed sensor that goes into the knuckle, and the hold down bracket up here that was right there. So I already took those two 10 millimeters out. That way it's nice and loose right here for when I take the caliper out and then hang it up here, because the caliper is going to stay connected with the brake line and then move up with the car when it goes up. One last nut for the upper control arm. So we're going to buzz that off with a 19 millimeter. So on the other side, I tried to do the whole knuckle trick, but it wasn't coming out because there's not enough weight to disconnect them. So I'm going to use this little puller that I've got from Harbor Freight and put some tension on it. We'll tighten this down, and then as I tighten, I'll tap until it works its way apart. Okay, get that nice and tight. Boom. I feel like it just needs a little bit of tension on it so that it will actually pop out. Otherwise, you're just going to sit there and beat on it and it won't do anything. Alrighty, so we are definitely getting much closer to the point now of where we can pull the body up and off and leave the subframe down on the ground. So I'm going to kind of go through everything I disconnected. That way y'all have a final little look over of everything. Alright, so underneath here, the first thing I did was I drained out the oil cooler from the plug right here. And then there were 2 quick connects that are on both oil cooler hoses. So I removed those clips out and pulled them out of their little housings. And so now it's just kind of dripping. And then this one is actually a power steering hose that goes over here into the rack. So it's this one that was disconnected, and it has a P-clip that has a buddy and shares up here, right there. So there's a P-clip right there. Took that off, and then we pulled it out, and then that way we could pull it out in the front, because it was a pain trying to get this from the cooler disconnected, because it's like way up there in that cooler mess. So it was just easier to pull it out so that this one will actually go up with the car itself. Disconnected the transmission cooler lines from the quick connects up above, so I'll show you where those are. And then as far as that, we have both suspension sides out. Let me back up a little bit. So we got both of the sides of the suspension disconnected. Was that everything underneath here? I think so. Let me go to the top now. Okay, so from the top, we had 2 transmission cooler lines that were right there. They're 2 little quick connects. So I accessed them through behind the headlight and right in here. So this one and the bottom one right there. Those were also 2 little quick connects with the little clips similar to the oil cooler. And then I labeled them top and bottom so I don't accidentally mix them up when I put them back in. And tuck them away so everything that was being left on the ground with the engine is kind of tucked this way, and everything that will be coming up with the car is kind of tucked over on this side. So like this power steering hose, this AC line, and then this fitting for the cooler, for the coolant, and then that T that goes up to the hose for the reservoir, all of that will be pushed over this way, so it'll come up. So it's just this hose right here I'll have to really watch when we're going up and down. Now I did disconnect the fuel rail hose, but I kind of left it over there so that it's not dripping fuel all over and making a huge mess and stinking things up. So it was disconnected. I'm just gonna have to pull it off the fitting fully and then wrap a towel around it so we don't get dirt in there. But other than that, tomorrow is the one where we have 4 transmission holder bolts, 2 carrier bearing bolts, and then you have the subframe bolts, and I believe that should drop everything down. So I'll let you know how that goes tomorrow. And that is pretty much where we are as of current. So yeah.
That one? Yeah.
Yeah, that one stays on the bottom.
Okay.
That one? Okay, we're free. We're free. Yay! I think everything's pretty good until Dad gets that cleared. Keep going, Mom. Alright, Randy, are you ready, honey? Yep. Alright, go. Thanks. More. Dad, you still good? Yep. Keep going. Keep going. More. More. Oh, you're good. It's just a little crazy. Alright, y'all still good? Yep, keep going. I think we're pretty much in the clear now. I see stuff down here. What's down there? I mean, like, I can see what you're like, oh, leave it. Looks like everything is good. Keep going. How fast do you want to go? We gotta go as fast as we can so I can close the good. Oh, alright. I know, it's really cool. I'm scared. Every single time it clicks, I'm like, you little scallywagger are just crazy. What do you say? You forgot the motor. Yeah. Watch your fingies. Watch the.
Nope, you're good.
Okay, I just wanted to. Hurry. Yeah. What's everything? Going up. You made Cheerios #1. Nothing like Well, it's sitting on the ground finally. So I'm going to show you a couple other lines that I forgot to show you guys at first, so that way it's easier to see them now that it's on the ground. So the first one is, don't forget to disconnect your fuel line that's right here. I had already disconnected it, but I left it on there for as long as possible so we didn't make a huge mess or have this open. So don't forget your fuel rail line, and then there's also a second one that's down here for your sensors. So this one is the same concept as your fuel line. You have a red locking tab that you got to take out, and then you press in on that white tab and press in on the white tab while pulling it off, and then you can get that last one off that's right there. Aside from that, I'm pretty sure I've covered everything else in the video. These are like your heater hoses, the clutch linkage, because this is a manual. This whole thing will just drop down through the hole. It just kind of comes out right through there. And then you have the carrier bearing that are the 2 bolts here, which are coming from there. And then we don't even really have this. I mean, it's supported there, but the back is just kind of hanging out. And yeah. And I believe that's pretty much everything else. The stuff that's still up there are like the hoses, that hydraulic hose for the clutch. So your clutch linkage line is up there. That's going to stay up with the car, same with the steering shaft. We also had this, that little Y adapter that goes to the bottom of the cooler up into the surge tank. That stays up there. That upper radiator hose over here. And I think that was pretty much everything. We had that power steering line just kind of tucked up out of the way. It actually just kind of like hangs down there, but I tried to tuck it up in that corner so it stopped leaking. And then the oil cooler lines stayed on the ground. Alright, so that is basically part 1 of getting it to this point. Stay tuned for the second part video of the actual motor teardown itself, everything that needs to come off, as well as the process of switching out the camshaft. Keep wrenching!